Okay, it's official, at least in the universe of Star Trek Picard Season 3, the original Constitution class is canon. No, not the Enterprise version in Discovery or Strange New Worlds, but something more like the original series Enterprise as seen in the 60s. In the Picard episode called The Bounty, the original Constitution class New Jersey is right there, floating in the legendary ship's fleet museum, and it's as close to the original Constitution class, which is Kirk's Enterprise, as New Trek has come so far. So what does this mean? Does it mean that Discovery and Strange New Worlds are indeed an alternate universe? Does it mean that the Enterprise and Strange New Worlds will get a refit to the Canon Enterprise? Or could it be that the Enterprise in Strange New Worlds is actually not the Enterprise in the original series, but a totally different ship altogether? Let's break it down. Of course, I vote for a refit at some point in the tenure of Strange New Worlds. In fact, long ago I created an alternative to the Strange New Worlds Enterprise in Blender, and now I use this Enterprise in many of my animated breakdown videos. It has always been my view that yes, the original Enterprise could use some visual enhancements, and you could simply say that the 1960s film quality was so low that we never noticed some nice little details here and there. In fact, this had already sort of been done in Star Trek with the Enterprise episode A Mirror Darkly. But I felt that that Enterprise, since it fired blue photon torpedoes from arbitrary places, was not quite right for modern Star Trek, even though this was a popular episode. Since I'm biased from my version of the Enterprise, I'm going to use it here to go over the differences. After all, my model is fairly close to what was seen in the original Star Trek pilots, namely the Cage and Where No Man Has Gone Before, although I do have another version which is a bit closer to Kirk's Enterprise. So let's first break down the differences as a point of reference. To me, the most glaring difference is the darker hull color in the Strange New Worlds Enterprise, and a very different kind of hull plating scheme.
All scrubbed up and good as new, sir.
Really, spick and span? The Strange New Worlds Enterprise is almost certainly the dirtiest and most craggy Starfleet hull we've ever seen. Every other Starfleet ship has a much cleaner and brighter looking hull. This makes the Strange New Worlds Enterprise look old and worn, as if it's been out in space for decades without much maintenance. I mean, this look is interesting and perhaps even appealing to some, but it's the most glaring inconsistency. Now, the secondary hull of the Strange New Worlds Enterprise is thinner or smaller than the original. This is where the navigational deflector, engineering, shuttle bay, and cargo storage is, which means, if these are similar in scale, and that's a whole different topic, that the original Enterprise has much more hull space to work with for those systems. The original Enterprise also has a much thicker saucer section, with many differences in the configuration, and it has a taller neck section that joins the saucer with the secondary hull. Finally, the warp engine nacelles and attaching nacelle pylons are very different, as if the truly original Enterprise again has a different or perhaps upgraded warp drive system. So how do we reconcile all this? And we must ask the question, is this even the same ship? As you examine these two vessels, more and more it seems like they are two totally different hulls, and it would be very difficult to add onto the existing superstructure to bulk up the Strange New Worlds Enterprise, as opposed to just building an entirely different ship. After all, the Admiral in Star Trek III says that the Enterprise is 20 years old, and that was in 2284, meaning if the Enterprise was built in 2264, this would be when Pike's time is coming to a close and before Kirk takes command. There are two arguments you can make against this, though. One is that the motion picture Enterprise also adds some hull mass and makes quite a few alterations. It is true that in the movie, Decker says that it's almost a totally new Enterprise. Another argument against this is the registry number. Pike's Enterprise in Strange New Worlds has a 1701 reg number. Kirk's Enterprise is the same. If it were a new ship, surely Starfleet would change this registry number or add a letter to it, such as A or something. So here's a theory that I think could work, and that is what I call the calamity theory. In fact, this theory could be applied to the motion picture refit Enterprise as well, and I look forward to possibly making a video about that. But basically, the Enterprise endures a calamity so severe that it effectively destroys the ship as we know it, leaving only a derelict hull, or the skeleton of the broken ship. And then this Hulk is salvaged for nostalgia reasons. Hell, it could only be a mere fraction of the original hull, and then the new configuration is built around it. Voila, you got your refit. You can, I guess, in spirit, call the 1701 Enterprise or original ship, but in many people's minds, it could be, on a purely technical level, the original Enterprise by the time of Star Trek III is only 20 years old and a different ship. There's only one remaining problem with this theory, and that is that the final episode of Strange New Worlds Season 1, Quality of Mercy, where a time anomaly forces Pike in command of the Enterprise to fight the battle with the Romulans rather than Kirk, some dozen or so years hence. Unfortunately, what is portrayed there is the Strange New Worlds or Discovery Enterprise, not the Enterprise as seen in the original episode, Balance of Terror. However, that was actually an alternate timeline and technically didn't happen. Perhaps we can ignore that. Which leads to one more theory, and that is that Star Trek Discovery and Strange New Worlds are just not the prime Star Trek universe, and they never will be, whereas Star Trek Picard apparently is. So there is still time to make this so. Now, I know a lot of you really like the Enterprise and Discovery or Strange New Worlds. I mean, other than it being dark and dirty, I also do appreciate its design. But instead of continuing to alter what has come before, or overplaying all these member berries and nostalgia, Star Trek producers should get off their ass and do what the original Star Trek did, and that is create something original and fascinating that adds to the universe. Stop retconning. Slow down with the member berries. Make something truly new and original that still remains true to the spirit of genuine Star Trek. Now, other than the annoying amount of member berries and nostalgia, Star Trek Picard Season 3 is making a step in the right direction towards what I would consider genuine Star Trek.